Hello everyone and welcome to the Dev Method. In today's show we're going to talk about Create React App and Enzyme. We also have our mascot here today. And we're going to show you how to get started in a project from scratch. So what I recommend is open up your text editor of choice and your terminal of choice. In this case I decided to use a really cool terminal called Hyper. So if you haven't looked at Hyper before, it's actually created in Electron. Check it out if you'd like. You can also use just the built-in terminal on your Mac or on your computer. But I'm going to make something from scratch. Let me get to my Documents folder. Okay, and then the first step I'm going to do is use npx to obtain create React App and then install an application in a directory on our computer. So npx, what it does is it takes any of the npm modules that are out on the npm registry, temporarily downloads them to your computer, and then executes them. So if you don't want to necessarily download Create React App to your computer and use it, you just need it for this one time, which in this case it's really just for that time that I create a new project. I usually just like to do it from there. I can use npx to get that accomplished. I guess the advantage of doing it without npx and just installing it as a global npm module would mean I'd have a fixed version that I'm using when starting a new Create React App. But it doesn't totally matter for these purposes, so I'm going to go ahead and create just a brand new one. So npx create React App. Make this a little bit larger for you. And I'll call it plain React Enzyme. That's it. Okay. Here we go. Very quick to download and set up. All right, cool. Ready to go. Next thing, I will step into our plain React Enzyme. Boom, in there, ready to go. Even set up a Git repository for me. Very cool, very hip. So the next part is to get this open in a text editor. Okay, so I have my project open now on the left-hand side, and then I have my terminal on the right-hand side. And what I'm going to do is just start off my test with npm test. There we go. So no test related to the files changed since the last commit. I have a couple of options. I could run all the tests. I can only run the fail test. I can filter by a file name. So there's a couple different options that you have when starting this up. I'm going to just say run them all since we only have one. And here are the test results. Ran them all. Now if I go ahead and make a new update, like let's add a new test here. Just say it adds, which is some sort of descriptive text in here. And then I'll just say expect 5 to equal, 2 to equal 2. Does that work? It works. So that's all you need to get started to set up. And the first layer of this is Jest. So this is built into Create React App to automatically give you the expect, and you can do some logic on numbers, strings, values that you get. If you're going to do things like look into the DOM and introspect on DOM elements, it gets a little bit more complicated. As you can see, it requires you to have a deeper knowledge of some of the React lifecycle. I don't particularly like this approach for testing. So what I like to do is use a tool on top of Jest, which is called Enzyme. And if you take a look at React's website, they have here some additional options for you for testing. And one of these options is to use npm to install Enzyme, this Enzyme adapter for React, and then the React test renderer. So I'm going to just drop that in right now to our terminal. Here we go. All three of those. Roll it in. The part after this that we need is this. bit of code in a file called test setup tests. So while that's installing, I'll go ahead and make that file. Setup tests.js. Test or tests? Ooh, plural. Okay. Drop that code in there. Takes the configure function, passes in this adapter for React 16. If you're on an older version of React, you'll have to drop it down to 15 or below. All right, our packages are installed. Let's run the next command, which is npm test, to test it all out to make sure everything's still working. Whoa, it fails. Crazy. Can't find React scripts. So I ran into this problem while doing this, and the documentation doesn't show you why this is happening. But what I did was npm install save-dev and then React scripts. Boom. So React scripts is something that is built into the package.json commands that you have, or these scripts that you can run. And they simplify what's the build step, what's the start step for running a local development server, and the test step. So I'm re-downloading those again so I can get that back. Shouldn't take too long. But after this step, we should be all good. All right, so we have React scripts installed now. Let's go ahead and rerun our test. npm test. Does it still run? Hey, still runs. Nice. So I'm going to go ahead and go to our app here, our app test. Show you just one little step here in Enzyme. Just import shallow from Enzyme, right? Next thing to do, I'm going to say has a p element, paragraph element. Give it a callback so it knows what to run for the test, and you say expect, and then you call out your component, so const app. I will render the app, wrap that in shallow. All right, app. There we go. App dot find, and then the element that I want. I'll just say dot length. Okay. And I'll say it equals 1, because I should only find one p element. There it is in the test results. Has one p element. Whoa. And if anybody wants to write in the comments why this is janky and stuttering all the time, please be my guest and tell me how to make that stop. So that's all we have to cover today, is just getting our project set up in Enzyme on a brand new Create React app. We took a look at the shallow function inside of Enzyme in your test that you could get set up to take a look at DOM elements, introspect on some of the text that's in there. In the upcoming episodes, we'll take a deeper look at some of the tests that you should be doing in your React app, and we'll walk through a couple of real-life scenarios where we can make that very useful for you on your projects. So stay tuned.